Like every car enthusiast, when I was younger, I used to sit down on a Sunday evening and watch Top Gear. And I remember very specifically one episode where a Noble M600 hit the Top Gear test track. And I remember thinking to myself, one day I would love to drive one of those. Well, I'm a very lucky boy because that day is today. And this isn't just any example. It's M600 RHD, which is one of the original Noble prototypes. Yeah, I can't believe I'm getting to do this, so let's get on with the video. Yes, this really is one of those pinch me moments. While it's easy to get lost in the rarity and history of this particular car, my main excitement comes from knowing that the M600 is a complete animal to drive. It's a real tame the beast type of supercar. Lots of power, a manual gearbox, rear-wheel drive, no ABS, and a rudimentary traction control system. And to think the top speed is quoted at 225 miles an hour. The cabin is also my kind of interior, simple, functional, but well trimmed with pleasing touch points. The instrument binnacle is styled off a Lancaster bomber cockpit, the traction control switch is from a Tornado fighter jet, and the focus is purely on driving, which in a car as wild as this is sensible. M600 RHD has lived a busy life. I'm told it was the show car at the Geneva Motor Show. It's appeared on Top Gear, been driven by the great motoring journalists of our time, and since it's been privately owned has received a colour change, interior retrim and other modifications which have enhanced the ferocity of the driving experience. An experience which I'm now going to tell you about. So they say, don't drive your heroes. So have I gotten into this Noble M600 and found myself disappointed? Well, I'm not going to answer that straight away. First of all, let's talk a little bit about what this thing is actually like to drive, because very few people have actually gotten behind the wheel of these cars. So when you get behind the wheel of one of these, your first impressions are, wow, this thing feels quite raw. But then you realise that this car, and the damping is passive, this car, there is a suppleness to it that you just don't expect. You think because it's lightweight, it's going to be a really hardcore thing to drive, but it's not. It's actually quite friendly in that respect. But make no mistake, when you want it to be, this thing can be an absolute thrill. So there's no driving modes per se here. So what we've got here is we've got a dial with road, track and race. And the more you cycle through it, the more engine power you get. So I'm going to turn everything back down into road. Now, in a standard Noble M600, road is around 450 brake horsepower, track is about 550, and then race is about 650 brake horsepower. However, this one has actually had a remap. So road is 450, track is 600, and race is 740 brake horsepower. And to give you some perspective, this car has a standard M600, weighs about 1,200 kilos. This one has had some of the crash protection taken out because this is actually a prototype 4, I believe. So this only weighs 1,100 kilos. So in its most potent form, we've got 740 brake horsepower, sending to the rear wheels in an 1,100 kilo car. That is outrageous. So we're in road at the moment. Let's forget track. Let's just have the full 740 brake horsepower, shall we? Let's open it up and see what it's like. Woo! That's very fast. That is very, very fast. That's like McLaren kind of fast. Loads of turbo boost. When that turbo really comes on song, trust me, it shifts. And we've got a red line just below 7,000 RPM. But the real highlight of this engine for me is the noise. It's a Yamaha V8 which has been fettled by Judd. 4.4 litres. It's from a Volvo. And yeah, as you can tell, for a V8, this thing sounds absolutely amazing. And this particular car has also been straight piped as well, so there's some amazing pops and bangs. that come out the back. But for me, there's two highlights in this car. The first one is the steering, the hydraulic steering. It feels absolutely incredible, very McLaren-esque actually. Not only do you get lots of feel and feedback through the wheel, but because this thing's light, you can place it on the road exactly where you want it to be. Honestly, the steering in this car is amazing. Secondly, this 6-speed manual gearbox. When was the last time you heard of a V8 supercar with a manual gearbox? There really isn't many of them, and this one has 740 brake horsepower going through it. Crazy. And you know what, it's a really lovely shift, nice and slick. Clutch action's a little bit heavy, but not too bad. And yeah, it's just very gratifying, and it builds this extra layer of connection with the car that you otherwise wouldn't have if it was an auto or you had sort of paddle shifts. And this gearbox, this Graziano gearbox, is from the Ferrari Enzo as well, which is really cool. And let's talk about the ride quality as well. We're going down quite an unforgiving country road right now, and the suspension just takes all of it in its stride. There's no adjustable driving modes or adaptive damping or anything like that. It's all passive, and Noble have done a fantastic job. Out the factory, it is pretty much spot on. Chassis feels great as well. It's a combination of steel, stainless steel and aluminium. Through corners like this, there isn't a huge amount of body roll, but at the same time there's just enough so that you can feel how much grip is available to you. Sometimes modern performance cars can be like this. When you go around the corner, there's very little give in the chassis, and you just lose this sense of where the limits of the car are. Whereas here, it's just constantly communicating with you, this thing, whether it be through the chassis, the seat of your pants, the steering wheel. This is a proper driver's car. This is the type of car that you can go down a country road like this one and have a proper conversation with. And for me, this is a very complete driver's car. The only area of this car that really sort of divides opinion for me is the brake pedal. So we've got steel rotors all the way around, no carbon ceramics here, which is fine. This thing weighs sub 1200 kilos, and you don't really want to take it on a track day, so you don't need carbon brakes. But the pedal actually feels very race car, and what I mean by that is that there's very little give and it's very firm. So when you get on the pedal, it's very difficult to modulate, and there's no ABS either. So yeah, braking in this car, it's a bit all or nothing. I don't mind it personally, but for some people it's probably something that they wouldn't quite enjoy. Now, if you hadn't realised, this car actually has a lot of history. Anybody who recognises this number plate will know that this car appeared on, I believe it's season 18, episode 1 of Top Gear, where Clarkson, Hammond and May drove across Italy in 3 supercars, a 12C, an Aventador and one of these. And Hammond's car broke down, unfortunately. Anyway, M600 RHD, which is this car, is the replacement car. This was the one that was driven through the night to Italy to replace Hammond's stricken M600. This car is literally in the Top Gear history books, which makes this very, very, very cool. It's actually a privilege to drive this thing. Prototype 4, it's the one that Chris Harris has driven around the Nürburgring. Various other journalists, including Steve Sutcliffe, have been out in this and road tested it. This is a legendary M600. And for me, one of the best things about it is that James, the owner, this isn't a garage queen. He hasn't bought it, shoved it in a garage, and he doesn't just stand there and look at it. This thing is driven regularly, and it's driven properly. We currently have here 53,635 miles on the clock. There's a little bit of wear and tear around the car, and for me, that makes it even cooler, because there's only 28 of these. Noble didn't build many of them at all. It's incredibly rare and incredibly sought after, and it's out here getting daily use. It's not a garage queen. So James is a legend, and for me this just adds to the history and the provenance of this vehicle. I'm pleased that an M600 is out there on the public road getting regular use, because it's a rare sight, and I should think other people seeing it and knowing what it is will make them very happy indeed. So how's it come to be that I get to drive one of my dream cars, and not just any dream car, but a very, very rare one? Well, one of our partners, SC UK, which is Supercar Owner UK, it's a supercar club. They do driving tours, events, so on and so forth. James, who owns this car, is a member of SC UK. And when I found out that they had an M600 in the club, I basically phoned them up and said, hey guys, do you reckon the owner will let me have a go? And lucky me, he said yes. So here I am, driving a Noble M600. Huge shout out to James, who's allowed me to drive this very, very special car. He's actually got a business, it's called John Ashley Cars. They're based in Rotherham, and they work on classic sports cars, doing repairs, restorations, maintenance, storage, that kind of thing. They've got a Facebook page, John Ashley Cars. Go check them out if you have a classic sports car and need any work doing to it. But yeah, thank you, James, for letting me come and drive this. It's been a real privilege. And he also has a YouTube channel. It's called Django's Garage. So go check that out. I'll link all of this in the description below. So returning to the question at the beginning of this video, should I not be driving one of my heroes? I think you can tell I've very much enjoyed this, and this M600 has lived up to everything that I wanted it to be. It is a sensational thing. You guys know that I love a driver's car, and this for me is a proper driver's car. What a genuinely incredible thing to drive, and what a real privilege to be able to have the chance to drive one. Money no object. If one came on the market, I would buy one every single day of the week. Modern supercars eat your heart out. This is a proper driving experience.